Is the One Piece trading card game so expensive? I want to build a deck, but I'm actually on a budget and I'm not sure what to do, where to start. How does a beginner actually get to build something but not spend too much on it? Is it too late to start now? Those are some of the questions that we're gonna be answering today, because we're currently in OP08. We're gonna be looking at what the deck looks right so that you know what to build if you want to start playing or if you want to upgrade some of your existing decks. Now, first of all, really fast, what's a deck? Step 1, pick a leader. Let's say Zoro. Yeah, that's one of the most expensive cards that you can pick for a leader, but bear with me, we're gonna get there soon. So for example, you want to build Zoro, probably one of the cheapest decks in the current meta. You need to pick a couple of cards. How many? Precisely 50 cards. And then you need some dons. Those are your energies or mana, or depending on the game that you've came from. Basically, you need 10 of those. And then, well, you can buy a starter deck. Yeah, pretty cool. You get a leader, you get a deck, you get exactly 50 cards in it, and you also get 10 dons. Okay, that's perfect. So now you can start playing the game. Yes and no. This is so that you can start playing, but what if you want to go for a competitive approach? So basically start and playing into competitions and actually get some prizes. So this is for the prizing. Now, what are you gonna do then? Well, you need to build your deck custom. So it's gonna be a custom deck with some leaders, and you need to build it with cards that most likely are not going to be in those structure decks. Those are called structure decks. What do you do if you want to go in the competitive scene? Well, let's look at some of the leaders today and see which out of those are sticking to your budget. Because basically you can build a lot of them, but some might be more expensive than others, and some might be performing worse than you would expect them to. And probably it's not worth your money. So we have just a couple of leaders. We're gonna look into all of them. Well, some of them depending on what's been topping in OP08. But you're on a budget. So let's look at some of the leaders, analyze the prices for them, and don't worry, I've built something quite interesting to help us for this, and you're gonna get access to it in the future if you wish to. Without further ado, let's look into OP08 and see what this current meta looks like so far. What's the meta? Basically the decks that are actually topping events. What means that? You get to look at top 8 and such, which means that you get to win amazing prizes with quite a lot of value to them, but you don't need to spend that much in order to get those. This is a dashboard that I've put together from the most recent events. I've also put something that's like not original or such, and all of them, if you take a look below, have average prices. So you'll know how much those cost if you actually want to look into the competitive scene, or if you want to bling your decks and actually get a lot more, let's say, shiny cardboard. Basically our decks, which look very fancy. Alternate art, special artworks, promo cards and such. So first of all, let's take a look at the Mexico regional. Basically this was won by a jewelry Bonney. So again, this is all custom built by me. If you want access to it, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you'll be able to get access to it in the future. I'm currently still building it, but this is something that I've managed to put together so far. This is what actually won first prize. If you take a look here, a Bonney deck costs around $151. If you're in Europe, that's roughly like 130, 135 euros. I'm gonna get the card market prices soon. That's still in the works, but I have this so far, so bear with me. So if you want to build a Bonney deck, this is one of the lists that you can build. Of course, those can change in time. So after all the events, people tech it up and such. But most of the time, like 80-90% of the cards remain the same. And in this example, you have Jewelry Bonney, which is sitting at only $151. And then you also get to see what cards have been played. So for example, you have 8 Searchers, Jewelry Bonney and Baby 5. Then you get some 2Ks. And the most expensive cards right now seem to be the Cavendish, which at some point, since it's an EB01 card, used to be, I think, $5. Yeah, you heard me right, $5. At some point, this card was 3 times cheaper. So right now, this would put you at around $60. And then you have Hody Jones, but that's not that expensive. And then you also have Rocinante and Eustace Kid. Not sure why Eustace Kid is that cheap at the moment, but Rocinante is sitting at 1307 at the moment of this recording, which is around the 5th of October. And then you also have Eustace Kid and Doflamingo. Yeah, I just realized that probably that was not on the screen, so basically the total price is 151. Now, you get two buttons, Show Bling and Export. That's gonna copy the deck list to your clipboard so that you can actually input it into the online simulator and play with exactly this deck. Now, what does the Show Bling do? So if you click on this, you're gonna get the maximum rarity at this moment, with all the cards, the most expensive ones, and you can get to see how much it would cost you to build the shiniest Bonney deck that won first place. Of course, you can tweak it, change it and such, but this actually won first place, and only the leader itself would be $50, but if you get 4 SP Jewelry Bonney, that's gonna sit around 240, and only this would be more expensive than the whole deck itself in the minimum rarity part. But yeah, again, this is the minimum rarity, and take a look at how beautiful this SP card looks like. Like, come on. But yeah, I don't play with max rarity cards. I don't want to, and I mostly collect them regardless. We also have Baby 5s, and let's see which is the other expensive one. Okay, Scratch Monopu. Yeah, this is the finalist. I thought it was just a normal regional because there's also that card. But yeah, this is the finalist one. That's why it's that pricey. You probably can't find that many that easily. And something that's really weird, if we look at the minimum rarity, Cavendish is sitting at around $60, while the Bling Bling version of him is just 23, let's say 24. So you get from $60 to 24, it's just a small difference. It's like $8. Like 50% more expensive, but if you take a look at the Bonney, it's like $1 and the other one is 17. So be wary what you want to bling your deck with, because you also have options for others like Rocinante $30 and then 22. So if you want to bling a deck, you can do that, but it might cost you a lot. This is one of the cheapest bling decks. So this is a cheap normal deck and cheap expensive deck. Now, what other options do you have? This is Michigan Battle of the Best. It was, I think, a smaller event. But the reason I wanted to put it on here is because you also get BY Luffy, which is probably one of the best, if not the best deck in the current format. And you can buy this. So right here you have all the cards that you're in need if you want to build it. But let's take a look. So right now it's sitting at $300. Some of the cards that are not in the ST, and I can confirm because I've played this deck, I know it pretty well. You're gonna need Flampe. Yeah, let's say $24. Hiyori, another $20, so 44 right now. You need Kuzan and Sabo. This is 50 times, let's say times 3, so 150. So most of the deck is gonna be, so this is like 150, with $50 it's 200, you have 100 left, and that's gonna be for Morias and Iceages. Not sure why this card is so expensive. It also got a bling version, we're gonna take a look at it in a moment. And Moria, another $50. So roughly $50 are the normal cards that you can get from 2 ST structure decks. So if you want to build a deck that's more consistent but has a pretty rough matchup against Bonney, you can go for BY Luffy. But this is one of the decks that I actually like to look at the bling version. Are you ready? So this is at 317. 3, 2, boom, there we have it. So the normal leader is $1. And then we have the Altar version, and then we have the newer one that was sold at the Bandai Fest events, and are going to be sold at the Bandai Fest events and are going to come in the near future. I think you get to pay like $50 for the whole set, and you get all 3 brothers like Luffy, Sabo, and Ace, and then you get all the Altar versions. This is from the ST, so if you see yellow, white, and black, that's basically, and a bit of blue depending on the card, green, and so on and so forth, but mainly white and black. Those are the cards from the ST. I personally don't like this Luffy, but it's really nice. However, if you look at the total price of a bling BY Luffy deck, it's 6k, which is insane, but that's for one simple reason. If you take a look, yeah, 50, 60, 20, ooh, okay, take a look at this. This is a championship Kuzan, which is basically right now sitting at over $1,000, and they only play 3. Why do I say only? Because there are some decks that build it with four pieces of this. And then you also have the Sabo, which is the manga letter, which hopefully is gonna go a bit down in price. due to the reprint set that you're gonna get pretty soon. Hopefully that helps with the prices a little bit as well. But if you were to build a deck, only for the 3 Kuzans you get to pay 3k, and then for 4 Sabos you get another 2k. So if you want to play BY Luffy, that's gonna be around 300 bucks. Let's take a look at the other leader, which in my opinion is still very consistent, but it's a little bit pricey. It's not as expensive as BY Luffy, but it's more expensive than Bonney, and that is Rob Lucci. So this is a leader that's mainly from the previous set, but it's pretty good still in OP08. And why is that? Because it has a lot of board control. It's a control deck, so you don't need to swing that much into the board. You get to clear the board with effects. But this deck is right now probably in a pretty weird spot. Like, it's really good, but it loses very hard to BY Luffy. BY Luffy is in a really good spot. It beats a lot of Rob Lucci, but its matchup against Bonney is really difficult. So those 3 decks I wanted to put here in the spotlight because are the decks that actually have a really good chance to bring you a top if you master them really well. Now there's also the time concern. Lucci decks usually take more time, so you need to be very fast with them so that you won't be exhausted after 10 rounds. So let's take a look at what do they play in this to make it that expensive, and you're gonna see something really interesting with this deck. That's why we have 2 black-ish decks. So this is pure black, BY Luffy was black and yellow, but you'll take a look at this one and you'll see something that's really interesting. So we play pretty much cheap cards, so not that expensive. Broke, this is from EB again, like Cavendish from Bonney, really spicy price. This is from OP08, but okay, let's take a look at this one, Sabo. We have 2 Sabos, which is the first card that's common, let's say, between this and the BY Luffy. Jack came out really recent, so Husu and Jack are from OP08. Those should be pretty affordable, and I recommend you getting one because Lucci is pretty good in 09 as well, and Jack is also played. Sabo has been a staple, meaningly a card that's been played in decks for a while, and it's in most black decks very helpful. And as you can see here, it's 25 bucks a piece, but you also can use it in BY Luffy. And then we have Isho and Gecko Moria. Gecko Moria is sitting at 10 bucks a piece. You need for BY Luffy and for this one as well, so that's 40 bucks right there. Ice Ages at 4 for the Lucci. So again, something that's been common. If I'm not mistaken, the Luffy also used it. Yeah, it has 2 of them. So even if you take a look only at the Moria and the Ice Ages, some of the cards are common between decks, and the same thing goes for the yellow card. So if you want to build a deck that has a pretty good chance, the cheapest option right now from the topping ones is gonna be Bonney, sitting at around 150 bucks. Then if you take a look at BY Luffy, you're gonna see in a moment something again really fun, but this deck is really hard to master. That's at around 300. I'd say this is one of the most expensive ones that you can build. You also have the Rob Lucci, which is a little bit cheaper, is a lot more consistent, but you need to be very fast with it because it takes a lot of time to do all your combos and get all the pieces together, and that can be pretty exhausting. One other thing that we have here is from the Auckland Regionals, hope I pronounce it right, again from Oceania, and that's Boa Hancock. This is probably your cheapest deck, but at the same time they don't play 10 rounds because they have way fewer players than on the western side, let's say west in terms of Europe and America. And one of the most expensive cards right now is the Flamingo, 4 bucks. Let's see what else. We have Jimbe. Again, if I'm not mistaken, this is an EB01 card. So again, something from that set that's currently expensive. So you want to pick up cards from OP07 while they're still affordable. And the same thing goes for OP08 because you never know when they're going to become really helpful and relevant. Then you have Gecko Moria. This is from ST. So you see that it's one of the cards that did not get a reprint. So it's still around 5 bucks. But if you take a look, 5 bucks is like the most expensive card in this deck. It can be a little bit bricky from time to time if you don't see your pieces right, but once you get a handle of it, it's one of the decks that has a pretty fair matchup against BY Luffy, which again, I feel like is one of the most difficult decks to beat at this point. Now, Let's take a look at the Bling version. I always like to look at the Bling version. So right now we have Kaya, which is a championship card. Again, 70 bucks just for one card. And if you take a look here, the deck with minimum rarity version is 105 bucks. But if you want to bling it, feel free to do so, but you're gonna be paying 3k for the max rarity deck. And why is that? Let's see which is the most expensive card. I'm curious if they get a manga or some championship card. I think it's gonna be championship cards. This is probably one of the most impressive SP cards with the Flamingo, which you're gonna get really soon in structure decks for almost free. Basically, you get to pay 10-50 bucks for the structure deck, and you also get that card. We got Pudding, yeah, that's still $1. Jimbe, 32 bucks, that's quite expensive. Moria SP, that's 100 bucks a piece. This has been growing in price a lot recently, especially because of the Doflamingo decks, not because of the Boa. That's the weird part. It's because of the Doflamingo ones. And then the Boa Hancock manga, which is right now sitting at 500 bucks. That's correct. So if you were to build this deck with max rarity, you'd pay 2k just for two cards, the Boa Hancock and the Moria SP card. With 2k you probably can build like 10 decks on average, let's say 8 to 10 decks, but you can also build this deck in a way shinier, blingy bling, whatever you want to call it, manner. Kaido SP right now is sitting at 32, that's a pretty good spot. I think at some point this was at 80 bucks, but again, if you want to go just for the minimum rarity, 105, around let's say 120 bucks with shipping, you can build a pretty good championship deck, right? So that's the deck that can bring you some good results. Now, if you take a look further, we also have the ST13 again. So pretty much the same thing. This one plays 4 Kuzans, not much different. For Moria, it's a very important card. Finger Pistol again, pretty cheap. So most of the cards that are expensive are the ones that you play in most of the decks. So Flampe is a pretty good 2k counter. You need this one for most of the yellow decks nowadays because yeah, it's pretty important. Kuzan again seen in a couple of decks. We're gonna take a look at another Luffy deck in a moment. Next one would be Nami. Now this deck has been around for a while. It's a card from back when not many were playing it. Nami is in a really nice position at the moment. It's one of the cheapest decks, 55 bucks. And your easiest matchups are against Rob Lucci. So Rob Lucci has a very rough time against you, but you lose to aggro decks. So matchups that are slow are your favorite. You get to build the whole deck for 55 bucks. We're gonna take a look at in a second at the other one. As you can see, this took second place at the Online Treasure Cup and the second place at a regional, again in Oceania. Still pretty cheap deck. You get a lot of cards that are like cents. Most expensive one is Love Love Mellow and Pilaf. I think if I'm not mistaken, you can build it for like 40 bucks, shipping included, something like that. The other is pretty similar. It plays a different F, so basically a bit different build, but yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, one thing that I'm curious actually to see is which is the most expensive deck from Nami looking like. So this one is sitting at 102 and this one is at 850. So let's take a look at the one which is 1200. So the most expensive, again, the leader. So just the leader itself is going to be triple the price of a full Nami deck. So if you play that one, you're going to play a hefty price. And then you have Kaya's, Gloriosa. Ooh, Zeph is pretty cheap right now. This is 5 bucks. But the Sogeking, again, this is the manga version of the Usopp. So you can see it here. Sorry, not Usopp. God Sniper. Sogeking. So basically this is like 300 bucks just for one card, and bear in mind that this deck sits at around 50 bucks. Let's take a look at another one, which is Monkey D. Luffy. This is the newer leader that I think got popular a bit more recently, even though it's been a while for like 3 months or such. It only got popular in, let's say, the last month or such. So if you take a look, again, Brook, as you can see, it's also played in this deck. You also seen it, if I'm not mistaken, in the Lucci one. We also have Kuzan, which was played in BY Luffy. So as you can see, a lot of different black decks that get tops, but play some of the same cards. So if you, for example, get Kuzan, Rebecca, Brook, Sabo, and Moria, you get to build most of the black decks without much investment, which is a really nice thing, because from set to set you need to pay way less to build a deck that's competitive. But if you're new, this is probably not one of the decks that you want to look into, because come on, it's 400 bucks, it's the most expensive, but it's not the most consistent, right? So there's a lot of builds going around. 400 bucks for a deck that is not yet the best, it's not the worst, obviously, it's still very good, it has a good matchup against others, but it's quite pricey. Again, there's a few cards that you can get in a structure deck. Again, Jack that was also played in Lucci, Sabo in BY, Moria, and so on and so forth. This is one of the decks that you can build, but honestly, if I were you, I don't think I would. Let's see how it looks in the Bling Bling version. So the most expensive one, again, a finalist card, as you can see here, brand new. Then you have the Brook alternate alt at only 400 bucks, not that much. But you get Tashigi SP at 50 bucks, Rebecca at 88, and Kuzan again at 1k. So this brings the deck in a very expensive area. So you get to pay only 4k bucks to get the Kuzans. Again, the minimum rarity is $400. But if you want to play with max rarity, you need to pay 4k just for the Kuzan. Yeah, it's a bit more, but you got the point. And then you get to pay for Sabo 1.5k, and prices do add up, and it's quite expensive to keep up with everything. 8k, which is probably enough to buy an average used car. But yeah, if you want to go for that, please go for it. It's your money, but please be financially responsible, okay? Okay, good. So we've taken a look at Bonney, Luffy, Lucci, Boa, and so on and so forth. We also took a look at this deck, the ST14, and now one of the decks that has been a, let's say, a rogue deck here and there. Yeah, I think the Kureha one is broken here, because that should have been the normal rarity one. Yeah, I think I need to change that one. So this actually got first place, third place. Yeah, third place. It's a pretty cheap deck. So if I fix the Kureha, let me take a look. So we cut around 30 bucks. So this is also a 150. I need to change that. But this deck right now, it's sitting at a pretty nice price. It's 150. It's a very aggro deck. You have a good matchup against Nami, which are not the most present ones, but you can also beat BY Luffy, you can beat Bonney. It's a bit rough against Lucci. So again, a pretty nice deck that you'll encounter from time to time. It's super fun to play, trust me. And most of the cards are not that expensive. As you can see, $1, 1.5. Chopper, which again, an EB card that used to be like $5. Like, come on, it's 4x at the moment. But yeah, Kid Killer, which was less than $1, like 30-50 cents, and now is at $3, and it's a rare. It's not even SR. But it's really nice because you can build this whole deck pretty cheap. It's fun to play. Let's see the bling part. So this is again a pretty expensive one, like 4.5k for a Zoro deck. You get the altered version of the leader, the Nami from OP08. Let's see what else we have here that's pretty expensive. Oh yeah, forgot about this guy, Tony Chopper, which used to, oh wow, this used to be like a $400 manga, 500 at most, and now it's at 750 only. The last one that I want to show you is probably Enel, which has also been around for a while, and it's in a weird spot. It used to be played a lot. You can see it topping from time to time. It's pretty easy to play, so if you want something straightforward, this is one of the decks that you want to pick up. Why? Because you play like at most one character per turn, and the only decisions are in the early phase, like do you want to attack or not and such. And you'd be paying at around $300 for it. It's not the most expensive deck, not the cheapest. So it's far from the 400 one, which is the ST14 Luffy, but it's still a pretty expensive deck. So it's at around $300. and out of which the most expensive card is going to be Katakuri. And probably Ace? Yeah. So Katakuri is the most expensive one. It's been around for a while. It's still expensive. We did not yet get a reprint, but that will soon be the case because we're gonna get a reprint of him, hence why the price has been going down in the last period. But yeah, if you want to bling this deck, it's gonna look like this. The leader itself is pretty cheap, like 26 bucks, not that much. Even this 2K, which has been around for quite a few sets, is cheaper. Again, some pre-release cards here and there, some alternate art versions, the Treasurer, Luffy, pretty nice parallel art for Nami, and other than that, I think that's pretty much it, right? So if you want to build a deck with the maximum reality, it's gonna be over $1,000. I highly recommend not doing so unless you just want to show off, but yeah, again, be financially responsible.